Hi, I'm Doug Thompson of Stories That Matter with my special guest today, Todd Braschler of the Braschler Family and Braschler Ministries. And Todd, good to see you again, buddy.
Thank you, Doug, so much. It's always great to hear your voice, and I'm so excited just to hear where God has been leading you and the opportunities you've been involved in the last year or so.
Well, I appreciate that, and where God's led us is a number of spots and amazing things. But one of the things that we get the most out of is being able to talk to people that are involved in the ministry. We've talked to entertainers from the Branson area because we've been working on some projects there, and you actually fit into both of those categories because I know you had a family reunion. The Braschler Family Gospel Reunion was scheduled April 5th at Hamner Theater, as I recall.
That's correct.
And did that get to happen then?
Well, unfortunately not. Branson aldermen and all of the leadership here began to put such strict guidelines and stipulations on the gatherings of people as the rest of the world was experiencing that caused us to postpone that experience. The one show we were going to do in April clear up into September the 20th, and we ended up having to do two shows. We had a sold out building at the time in April, and with the new guidelines, you had to have so many feet per between people and empty rows and so forth. So we actually did two full shows to a packed house, as packed as we could get them, in September instead.
That is awesome, and that speaks volumes for those of you who are watching this and you think Todd Braschler is the ministries only. He was part of the Braschler family. Of course, you still are part of the family, but the Braschler family was one of the early families performing in Branson. Can you kind of fill us in on that?
Oh my, those were some amazing years when our family came to Branson. My dad was a senior pastor. We were just singing as a group at our church and had an opportunity to open a show in Branson. My dad said, "I just feel like I want to try something after 30 years. I want to minister in a unique and different way." And so we came to Branson. The Chamber of Commerce told us that there were too many shows here already. Didn't know if the community could support another show, and I think there were 16 shows at the time. Some of our favorites and became lifelong friends, of course, were the Presleys and the Bald Knobbers and the Foggy River Boys, the Texans and the Bobolinks and so many other, the Plummer family. These were family shows that would support you and help you get a start here. And boy, things have changed a little since then. We were here for 24 years, and my dad retired in 2007. And that had been the last time we were all on that stage together until this year.
I bet that was interesting when you said, well, let's do the Braschler Family Reunion, Gospel Reunion, I guess it's called, and to get everybody back together. And I know you've seen them at holidays and other events and things that have taken place, but to actually get back together and be on the stage, because when you finished performing with the family, you were about 20... How old were you?
25, 28, somewhere in there.
I kind of remember you telling me it was about that time frame, and so the family to get back together like that, did it just feel natural? Boy, we're just right back at it.
Well, my family always sung together, even since that time in church mainly. But to be back in the theater and back with some of our band members who weren't family members, but were very well, just like family. Boy, I found out how difficult it is to sing and weep at the same time because there was a whole lot of both going on. It was very.
Oh, I bet. I bet there was. I would have loved to have seen it. I hope there's some footage of that somewhere that I get to see sometime.
There is. There is. Thankfully,
Awesome.
they recorded it, and the DVD is just about remastered and ready. But on top of our family being there, Doug, it was such an amazing experience to see so many people that we had met over the years who flew in here in the middle of all this stuff from California and Las Vegas and drove clear out from Pennsylvania and down from Minnesota. And we had people who just were family members and cherished friends that we met because we moved to Branson that made the effort to come. And so to look out and to see those faces and to be reminiscing over some of this music I'll tell you, we were wiping the tears and trying to keep it together, and it didn't get any easier the second show either.
No, I'm sure it didn't, but they were tears of happiness and fond memories and times that have gone by, and you know you're just like the rest of us, that the time moves forward. We know we're not permanent on this earth in our bodies as they are now, but we're permanent. But God controls all of that. Now, as I've said that, after you left the family entertainment business, you started with your ministries. Tell me about Braschler Ministries.
Yeah, well, I actually left my family show here to go into the ministry as an associate pastor and serving in youth and music mainly, but as a youth pastor in Florida and Kentucky and clear out in Casper, Wyoming, and then eventually in Wichita, Kansas. But through those experiences, God began to transform my heart into a specific direction that I felt was so unique. I had to explore, and it was really all about God's unique vision for people and how we must keep the church focused on not only developing God's people, but also reaching lost people for Christ. And sometimes in ministry, as in anything, you can become so tunnel visioned and focused about building your church that you forget about the reason we're here sometimes, and that is to invest and develop and build people. And with that calling and with the opportunity to sing as well, God opened a door for me in about 2001, right after 9/11 occurred, and some friends came and said, "We think maybe God's leading you in this direction. Here's a check. If you would like to follow that leading, we would be willing to invest with you in that," which you can imagine just blew me away, that somebody would believe in you not only by words but by deeds and investment. And so that started out as a Christian recording artist opportunity that led my through my passions dug into investing in pastors, into men, into couples. And then I do one-on-one work with pastors in an effort called a visionary communicator. It's a study on the way Jesus moved people and led with vision. So wow, my world kind of exploded at that point.
It absolutely has, and of course, I can speak with certainty of this one because we were a part of it. Our church in Emmanuel, and our pastor is Pastor Gordon. You had met him probably in Wichita, and we had the opportunity to do one of the men's retreats and marriage couples, and it was absolutely fantastic. Fantastic. I left there with one of the books that you had told me about. You said, "Doug, you ought to take a look at A Daily Devotion by Oswald Chambers." And so I bought it. Got the last one you had that day. Got it. And my wife and I have been reading that now every day. That's our one of our readings, and it is amazing. The whole story of Oswald is amazing. The whole story of you being there for that is absolutely amazing. And I come across people who were at that event, and they say, when do you think Todd will be coming back? And I said, sometime down the road. You know, he'll be back sometime. Absolutely amazing.
That experience with you and the invitation you made to a couple who came and their testimony of their experience of that day, that will stay with me for the rest of my life. So amazing. And it's such a joy, Doug, to speak into the life of people, not about their current situation necessarily, and not just about their past. And so this calling in my particular heart is really to speak into the future that God has for people. And so there's not a lot of language that has you should, you ought to, you have to, you need to kind of teaching. But instead it's, man, have you seen or you thought about this yet? Have you really listened to the Lord on this yet? Has he shown you his vision for you yet? And this anticipatory calling in my heart really is so exciting to be a part of. And the church there in Abilene on two different occasions, a couples event and a men's event, were both such a blessing. So I really appreciate your participation in those.
Well, it was a joy to see it and to see the techniques that you used, because they were common sense and they were driven by the Lord. And that was the important part, because it's easy to have a couple get together and say, well, you should have done this. He should have done that. This should have been this way and that way. And all that does is create more division or guilt or other things, as opposed to the way that you handled it as your future begins today. And you can do this and you can do that if you just put the Lord in the middle of your relationship. That was absolutely amazing. So many people walked out of there and were just shaking their head with, man, that everything he said was right on point. And that is just fantastic, just fantastic. Todd, I know it's difficult now, so what do you do now? Because getting crowds together like we had at the Abilene, Kansas church, and many others, of course, that you've done, but how do you do it now? Because it's difficult to get people together where you come in on speak to them, and you're so accessible at those events, because when they take a break, you're encouraged, come on up and talk to me if you have to. If you have something you want to talk to me, not if you have to, but come on up and talk to me if you have something you want to say. And they do, and they felt very comfortable doing it. And you took whatever time was necessary for every person who was there. But now you can't put those groups together. How are you compensating for that? What's the ministry doing now?
Yeah, this has been a challenge for anyone in this kind of a world, pastors, anybody that your career and your calling depends on a crowd. Thankfully, I am surrounded by some amazing board of advisors that are a part of my ministry, many of them right there in Wichita, Kansas. And a year ago, long before this pandemic even came around, and I hate even using that word, but the situation came about, my board of advisors were already talking to me about creating more of an online opportunity to broaden our communication basis. And at the time, all I had was a laptop and no knowledge whatsoever about any kind of live streaming or anything like that. Last Christmas, a church that I'm connected with generously made a wonderful donation to my ministry. And because of that, I was able to purchase the equipment that I'm using here now. And so we were having this discussion long before COVID-19 showed up, thankfully. So the encouragement from my board, and then, the necessity that 9 of my events for 2020 were either canceled or postponed to another year, really challenged us. Man, God, is this the end of my calling, or are you challenging me to dive in a different way? I'm, like you said, I'm a very personable person. I love to be right there, shaking hands and hugging people and sitting at the table with people. And so the thought of sitting here in my office where I am today and looking into a camera, I just thought, man, that could be nothing more unfulfilling. And yet, what I'm finding is, even in a couples event, a leadership event, I'm right in the middle of an online 6-week event called Where in the World is Will? And it's for the Eastern time zone churches as a small group curriculum or as a Wednesday night option. I'm finding that, boy, when you just pour yourself into people, it doesn't matter what's between you, whether it's a desk or a podium or a camera lens. God's Spirit just seems to to invade the space and create the connection that I long for being in person. And so, pretty much everything, all my concerts have been canceled, all of worship leading kinds of things until next February right now. And so everything I'm doing is just like this right here online.
And it may be, Todd, that what the Lord's doing too as part of this is He knows that you can reach a lot more people if you can do it by Zoom programs such as this, and programs to where you can teach to thousands at a time that would be very difficult to put together in one arena at one time, the distance and other things. And we can turn something that seems like it's really a bad event into something that can be very useful for others. And you are, and I'm sure you are. You're working on this hard, and you have that gift. You have the gift of being able to reach to the people, to comfort them, and to just to help them. And that's the good Lord gave you that one, Todd. There's no question about it.
Well, it's a bit challenging because I feel like one of my strengths is really taking my cues from people, taking my cues from individuals who are listening and watching and in the room with me, and that's really where my heart is. And when that opportunity is taken away, and everybody's on mute, and you are talking, you can't hear the response of people. You can't hear the laughter of people, as a matter of fact. And so it just really becomes a challenge for me to read people and to know where people are and to know what's going on with them. Are they getting this? Is this making any sense or not? And so that's been an additional challenge that I'm sure anybody you speak to would say, my heart is to be responsive and to be interactive with people. And that sometimes is a challenge this way, but we're making the best of it. How's that?
Well, and you are, and you're doing a good job. Are you back in home in the Branson area?
We are on a big rainy day today, the first one we've seen in 2 months. And we're watching the crowds still pretty steady for what we're allowed to do here in this town, although we're seeing a lot of small businesses go bankrupt here.
Yeah,
unfortunately.
I hear that a lot and happening everywhere. Our community's the same way, that they just can't make it go. It's a very difficult times, but we know who's in control.
Yeah, and in our discussions, in fact, in this series I'm doing online right now, where in the world is will, my personal will? Have I allowed it to rest in a place that is bringing division and unhealthiness in my life? Part of that is how I'm processing this situation around me. This is not what I want, but my only other alternative, instead of turning into a bitter, sour person in the midst of all this, is to go, God, what do you want? What are you seeking because of this challenge in my community, in my church, in me? God, will help me be in tune with your will through this time. And so that's been a great, not only challenge to communicate, but it's also been a wonderful challenge to stay in tune with myself. It's been a blessing to be teaching this topic right in the middle of something where our personal wills could cause us a tremendous amount of frustration right now.
Yeah, I understand. And Todd, we're going to put the contact information up on the screen as we release this, and as soon as you have the family video ready to go from the show, why, you let me know, and we'll tagline that on there so people will be able to go to the site, and they'll say, okay, I'm going to order that now, and they'll be able to take a look at it. And as always, if there's something we can do to help with the ministry, you just let us know, because you have been such a blessing to all of us, and we just thank you, Todd, and it's really, really good to see you again. Take care of yourself and the family.
Thank you, Doug, so much. What a blessing to talk with you today.
You take care.